Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Rebel Vlogs. We are in a special location with a very special guest. We are here with Major Lisa Jaster, like faster, but with a J. She is a Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, and she is someone who actually took our MMA Crusaders tour seminar here in Iraq just a few hours ago, and I did not know, but she's actually one of the first women to ever graduate Ranger School. And I'm going to take this opportunity to get to know her, ask her what her experience graduating Ranger School was like, going through it, and just ask her what's next, and also find out a little bit about her MMA knowledge and what she likes about MMA, because clearly she is a Jiu-Jitsu fan as well. So without more explanation, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Okay, so I know that there's a lot of interviews out there. I'm lucky to get one on my very, very small little YouTube channel that hopefully grows soon. But please tell us a little bit about where you're from and what your life was like as a child. You know, did you always want to be a badass, or did you actually wear dresses? Yeah, I mean, this seems like a really rough, tough job. I've been called kind of like a badass, you know, having a job that's not very feminine, and but when you are a female and you do a tough job, you get that label. So tell us where you're from and what your aspirations were like when you were a little girl.
Yeah, so I grew up in Plymouth, Wisconsin, very small town. Well, actually, the first thing I said to you when I met you was, thank you for not being a cheerleader. So I absolutely love anybody involved in any extracurriculars. No judgment whatsoever. But a lot of times while we're overseas, a lot of people come to visit. We get football players and cheerleaders and other athletes and stars and a huge gamut of wonderful people. But a lot of the females that come over are with the cheer squads, which is great. Again, they're amazing athletes, but they're not going to get on the mats and roll with you. And so we kind of joked about that, and then I explained that in Plymouth, Wisconsin, I was a cheerleader. So I was actually a high school cheerleading captain. So I don't know if I was all that rough and tough in those years, but I definitely always had some goals and some drive. So I grew up in Wisconsin, and I'm actually deployed with a unit out of Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. But I live in Houston right now, so I'm a reservist, and I do this military thing part-time. I used to be a full-time soldier, but for the last almost 7 years now, or 6 years, I've been doing it. We say 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year, but as anybody who's ever been a citizen soldier knows, it's significantly more than that. Obviously, I'm over here.
Yeah. So you're over here in Iraq in this beautiful land. And I only say that because it's raining outside, and if you step on some rocks, your foot's going through a mud hole. So it's some rough conditions, and I'm sure it's a little rough in the summer as well. But is this your first time being deployed here ever, or how many times have you been deployed, and is this your first time in Iraq?
So I've been deployed 3 times. This is my second trip to Iraq. I actually went out with OEF, which was Operation Enduring Freedom 1 to Afghanistan. And then immediately or soon thereafter, my unit got deployed to OIF, which is Operation Iraqi Freedom 1. So that was back in 2003 that I was in Iraq last. And I had a 5-year break in service. So in 2007, I chose to get out of the military. I wanted to have an opportunity to be married to my Marine. Army and Marines do not get co-located very much. And have some children without the risk of deployment. The op-tempo at that time, and still now, op-tempo is the operational tempo, so how often people are getting deployed and moved and sent overseas. It was very high, and I was concerned that with my husband being a reservist and me still being active duty, that number one, having children is impossible when you're in 2 different countries, and number 2, I wanted to be there for their first couple of years. So after a 5-year break in service, I realized how much I truly loved this group of people. If there is one family that isn't blood related, it's the military. You go into an airport and you see somebody with a military issue backpack, and suddenly you're like, what's up? And you buy their coffee, they get a discount at Starbucks automatically. Like, it's just this big sorority fraternity lifestyle. And I missed it with every fiber of my being. So the last 5 years, I've been a reservist, and it's been, I said 5 years, 6 years, and 7 years now. So let me see. I got back in 2012. Let me get straight now. So yeah, it's been almost 6 years, and I loved it immediately, and have been enjoying it ever since. But as a reservist, this is my first deployment, so it's a little different to come overseas when you have a full-time job, you have extracurriculars in an area where they're not used to people deploying. Mm-hmm. So my friends and family aren't used to somebody just picking up and leaving for 9 months to a year at a time, where if you're leaving from a military base, that is pretty standard. People understand it. So. Wow.
Okay, well, I have limited knowledge of the military. I'm learning a lot while I've been out here, and actually appreciating the military and the government more than I ever have in my entire life. And so I really, really appreciate what you're doing and what all the soldiers are doing. And I'm actually out here in the middle of a camp, and it's not really the best thing you want to do, but I think when I go back, I'm going to feel like a weenie. I'm going to feel like a weenie. I'm going to feel like a weenie because you guys, it's rough. It's a lot that you guys go through, and I really admire it. So thank you for doing what you do, first of all. But I want to know a little bit about your experiences, probably like the elephant in the room. Everybody wants to talk about it, and you're probably tired of it. But, you are the third, technically, female to graduate from Ranger School. So congratulations, first of all. That is definitely badass. It's one of the most badass female jobs I can think of. Can you just tell us a little bit about what the whole process was like? I mean, it's obviously tough as hell, but did being a female, going through the school, did it have its downfalls? I mean, it's probably hard as hell for everybody, but tell us a little bit about what being a female, how that role played.
So Ranger School has always been touted as sometimes U.S., but even one of the world's best leadership schools. Soldiers and officers from countries all over the world go to the U.S. Army Ranger School. So if that tells you the prestige of the school. To explain the difficulty of it, day 0, you show up, you do all your in-processing paperwork, you go to bed, and you get up in the wee hours of the morning, and you take a physical fitness test. On day 1, we had 400 people start that school. By breakfast, we had 300 people in my class, give or take. So that means 25%, 100 people who shaved their heads, packed their duffel bags, and left their families, kissing their families goodbye for 9 weeks or more, didn't even make it to breakfast on the first day. So it's a physically challenging school. And yeah, to address being a female, I was different. I stuck out, and I was a lot older. The average age of a student is 21 years old, so it's 21-year-old men going through this school. So it was hard for anybody, including myself at some points in time, to believe that a 37-year-old woman can do the same thing as 25% of the 21-year-old men couldn't get to breakfast. I mean, it was a challenge, but that there was something about being the odd man out that was not only liberating, but invigorating. So at one point in time, in the second phase of Ranger School, it's called the mountain phase, and you're in Dahlonega, Georgia, and you're on the Appalachian Trail. It's gorgeous. And I'm looking around, and I'm smiling. And I've got 75 pounds probably on my back, holding a weapon, haven't showered in 3 or 4 days. And we're walking up this mountain. We're just beaming with sweat. Like, there's just not dry spots on your clothes. And one of the guys who was doing a head count, so as you walk by him, he's touching each person, 1, 2, 3, make sure we have everybody. He looks at me, he's like, Jaster, why the heck are you smiling now? And I just looked at him, I'm like, I get to be here. Like, no woman ever before has walked on this trail. Ever. Like, Yeah, I was different. I was the odd man. Somebody called me a unicorn one day because they hadn't seen any females in their unit. And when they saw me, they're like, oh my God, you're a unicorn. And it was a really weird thing to be called a unicorn at a very masculine school. But it was even funnier when that stuck with me. And I thought, God, I get to be that person. So everything I went through, positive or negative, was all encapsulated with, I get to be the first person that walks here that fits my demographic. I'm the first mom that's carried a radio. I'm the first mom who, and I'm sorry to my RIs, who burned out the barrel of a 240 because enemy was coming and I couldn't get my finger off the trigger. It was just, it was fun and it was awesome and it was cool. And I knew that someday I got to tell my kids that I was there doing this. And I mean, what an experience.
Yeah, wow. That's an amazing point of view, you know. I try to relate a lot of things in my interviews back to myself. And right now I'm listening to you talk. I'm like, yeah, you know, like what I've been through does not compare to what you've been through at all. But I'm like, okay, when I was on a boys wrestling team and then I was, you know, I did this. And then I'm like, there's times where I'm cutting weight and I'm like, this freaking sucks.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? How many people would love to be in my shoes right now? And oh, I thought we're doing a high five.
No, I was gonna say.
But yeah, and you know, like even being here in Iraq, you know, like I forget what it was, what day it was. I think I was over in Kuwait, and it was hot as balls, and I was just like, you know, and I forget, it was like you step in the dust, and they call it moon dust, right? Or yeah, and it was like everywhere, and like, you know, the girly side of me was like, I shouldn't have worn black, you know, but then the other side was like, oh my God, here I am. I didn't have to sign up for the military, but I'm so lucky to be here, sweating my booty off, you know, and just experiencing this. And sometimes if you have the right point of view, you know, you're just making the best of the situation. And look at you, you're doing great now. So, you know, congratulations, like I said.
You know, I think it's funny. When you and I talked earlier, one of the things I thought of was looking at you, knowing your resume. Of course, you're tough. And then all your profile pictures, so then I started, of course, kind of stalking you. And all your pictures, you look cute, you've got nice makeup. Right now you're in little spandex and you're looking all sweet. And so you have this hard side and then you have this girly side, but then you're at a place in your life because you did grow up with a little bit of adversity. It's not, you know, being the only girl on a wrestling team, it doesn't hurt you, it makes you stronger, but you know, it makes it so that you can walk around here with a base that's 75% male and you own the room. Like those are the experiences and those are the times you really need to get out of your comfort zone so that at 31, 30?
Whoa.
30?
I'm 30. Okay.
30. She's 30. I'm 40, she's 30.
The day before my birthday.
Got it. Okay, so she's 30, and I'm sorry. But at 30, you're walking around with people who all have weapons, and you're in Iraq, and this is not any place that anyone would want to come. But not only can you come, but you can be confident. You can teach a seminar and own the room and be like, dude, I'm going to roll with you. and just take charge. And so our experiences are very similar. And I think, you know, one of the great things about being a woman that I kind of feel bad for guys about is we get to do that. We get to be cute and tough, and I get to be a mom, and I get to be a grappling partner, and I get to be confident and secure. I get to be a cheerleader and a ranger. I mean, that doesn't happen much. So, yeah, it's an opportunity.
We do get to have the best of both worlds. And any woman can really do that, you know, as long as you believe in yourself and know that women are just as tough as men, in my opinion. You know, obviously we are physically different in a lot of ways and you know, biologically. But I think it's amazing that you too have two different sides. You are a mom. And I'm pretty sure you don't got the same game face on with your kids that you do in war. So maybe you do, and I feel sorry for your children. But can we just touch on your home life for a little bit? I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you are married to a Marine. So is it possible that at one point you can be deployed and he can be deployed, and then in that situation, what happens to the kids?
Well, so in the military, there is actually a standard. So before you go anywhere, if you're dual military, you have to have what they call a family care plan. So you have all the legal stuff, everything's set up so that if both of us disappear, somebody's taking care of our kids.
Oh, no. Okay, I just meant
Disappear for deployment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or anything else. Yeah. Not the ultimate. No.
The ultimate disappear.
Yeah, no. If we can't be around.
Okay. Forgive my ignorance. Is it like a military babysitting plan? I don't get it.
Kind of. It's called a family care plan. Okay. So you have a short-term one. So if I'm going to be gone for, most of 2018, well, my husband still has to do his training. So during those short periods of time, my mom comes in and there's a bunch of forms and she's on all the healthcare forms for the school and everything's set up so mom can just walk in for a month or 2 weeks or whatever is required. Oh. And then if something longer happens, then my brother and sister-in-law have power of attorney. They have, we have finances set up. We have a bunch of things in place for a long-term family care plan.
Okay. That makes me happy. Okay. The first thing when came to my mind when you were like, "Oh, I'm married to a Marine," I'm like, "Wait, what if they both have to go to the same war?" Like what happens? So, and
not to us. It hasn't happened to us.
Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I totally understand because we're gonna get really girly for a second, but as a female fighter, people, I get the question, "Oh, so you only date fighters?" And I'm like, no. But then I'm like, it's so much better because you can understand each other. You don't have to explain stuff to each other. And so, yeah, so I can totally understand why you would want you pick a partner. Obviously not in the same branch, but, someone. Okay, well, I guess enough personal talk. Let's talk about MMA for a second. I met Lisa today, like I said earlier, in the MMA seminar. It's called MMA Crusaders that we're doing right now, and it's put on through Pro Sports and the Armed Service Entertainment. And this is my first tour, I guess you would call my first tour. But the other guys have been doing this 5, 6, 7. I think Diego might have done it 10 times now. Wow. And I'm having the time of my life. It's a once in a lifetime experience. Hopefully I can do it more. So I guess technically it's not once in a lifetime, but I love it. And I just want to know, number one, what do you think about the organization, Pro Sports, or maybe the Armed Service Entertainment, bringing people over here? How does that affect you personally, and maybe how you think it affects the other soldiers?
So going back to the joke I made earlier, it's really good to have something for everyone. So we are away from all of our comforts. I don't have a TV. I have to walk almost a block to go to the bathroom. The comforts of home are few and far between here. So having something, it's not a comfort from home. This is a huge experience. I posted a picture with you online and I got more likes in about 15 minutes and it was 2 a.m. at home. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, I know her," and it was, so it's this great opportunity. And I love that they're bringing in athletes and they're not, you all are not what we expect. So you are fighters. You are people who are on the mats. You got sweaty with us. We had to chug water together and take breaks. And, I accidentally kicked somebody and they got blood on their face. So you're there and you're with us and you're doing more than we expected, but more than we even wanted. So, I think the world of this experience. And when I told my husband, this is a good example of how important this is. When I told my husband, "Hey, look at these people who are coming," and of course he was like, "You got to get pictures with all of them," and he was really supportive. But then the next thing he wrote was, "There's a lot easier ways for those fighters to make money," and it kind of clicked with me because. You can do this for PR, and I don't think anybody who's involved in the USO or any of these military support organizations are doing this for a paycheck. But if you're going to spend a week or a month or even a day doing something, this is selfless, and that means the most to us. So it's one thing that you got on the mats, but it's another thing that you got on the mats in Iraq when you don't have a shower anywhere near your room, you know, it does mean a lot to us, because sometimes you hear back home that people don't support the policies, or they don't support this action or that action. But whether or not you agree with them, with policies or where our government is, we're still people, and we still like the support. And to feel that love from home, and that sounds really cheesy out loud, but literally this is feeling love from home. And it means the world to not only the 12 or 14 guys that came today, but everyone else, like the guys, my guys that I work with, knowing that you all were willing to fly and live in the dirt and, you know, stay with us and stay in the same living conditions we are. You're not in a 5-star resort. You're in the hooch down the way. And that means the world. So the organization, but you 4 fighters specifically, I will always hold you in the highest regard because you came over here.
Thank you. And I'm not looking for any kind of praise at all. I just, you know, I really hope that I'll take it. I really hope that, you know, because I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, is this really doing much? You know, okay, we're putting on a seminar, because they're like, you're going to go over there and you're going to boost morale. And I'm like, okay, we should throw them a party then. We should get them a kegger, you know, like I'm sure that would boost morale, you know, but I'm like, all right, okay, if they want me, I'll go. And for me, like, this was the only way I could think of, besides, you know, changing my life and like enlisting, that I could actually.
I don't think we'd let you in.
What? You don't want this? I'm just joking. I didn't. Oh shoot. Well, not like I was thinking about it, but.
Might have to take some of these out.
Well, I think that this is a very, 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 very unique way for me to finally. You know, I'm 30 years old. I don't think I've done shit for, I don't think I've done anything for, you know, our country besides this. And it's not much, but, you know, to hear that it does boost morale and you guys do appreciate it, I'm like, sweet. Okay, maybe this is, you know, the one thing I get to do, you know, for my country. And I don't, not really for my country, but for everyone, like you said, I don't agree with a lot of the policies that, you know, our government has in place. And I'm pretty much apolitical, you know, like I know a lot of my high school friends and maybe some college friends are like, what are you doing over there? But I'm so lucky because this has been an eye-opening experience. I didn't know what you guys had to go through. No, I still don't know exactly what you have to go through, but just the living conditions alone and being out here, I feel grateful. So thank you again, like I said, for everything you do. And it's not because you're a woman. It's just because you're human, you know, like whether you, I was going to say that. It doesn't matter what you got down there, basically, you know. I think it's amazing. So thank you. And just, I want to talk about how you have some experience in Jiu-Jitsu, because guys, today you were great. A couple other female soldiers from the other camps, one in Kuwait and one on another Iraq base. They did their best, but she had some legit jiu-jitsu experience. I look over, she's rolling with this big Australian dude, and she's about to mount him, and she like looks up at me and she's like, should I do this? And she's just like talking to me like she was like, you know, like, I don't know, eating some Skittles, and she was calm and she's doing good technique. And then I'm like, this girl's definitely had some training. So tell us about your jiu-jitsu or any kind of mixed martial arts background. You said you were a cheerleader. You definitely did not learn that in cheerleading.
Well, I'm really, really blessed. We have Gracie Baja West Chase is close to our house. We actually, when we moved to Houston, we found Gracie Baja. They had a great kids program, and my son started. My husband was already training at another dojo. And then at some point in time, we had to move. And Gracie Baja had become so much part of our family. We actually drew a circle around Gracie Baja to figure out where we wanted to live, to make sure that we could still be part of that family. Because it is, fighting's, I mean, you don't get much closer than choking a friend. I mean, there's a relationship that you build there. But I have an amazing school, and my husband made sure that my son started right after his 3rd birthday, and then my daughter started right after her 3rd birthday. And somewhere in there, my husband, once again, pretty much the troublemaker in my family, looked at me and said, hey, listen, the best kids in jiu-jitsu are the ones whose parents train, and it's good to lead by example. So I'm like, all right, I'll go twice a week. And I did. I started going twice a week, and then I started going 3 days a week, and then next thing you know, I was going 4 or 5 days a week, and suddenly I'm on the mats, you know, yelling at my son. And then my son, one time I did a tournament and he was yelling at me, and then he told me it was the most horrible thing to watch me fight, and he didn't ever want to do that again because it made him so nervous and he'd rather just fight himself. And it's become this thing that the last time I was gone, when I was gone at Ranger School, I don't know if you've heard of the term manscaping.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Wait, where is this going?
My husband manscaped the house, so the living room does not have a carpet. It's got a... Yep, stay with me. It does not have a carpet. It actually has a wrestling mat in my living room, and there's there was a wrestling dummy. We did donate that.
Does he have a brother?
He is an only child. I'm sorry.
But all the good ones are taken.
You'll think this is funny, though. Our wrestling dummy that was in there was actually named Diego. So we had our wrestling mat and our wrestling dummy, and we've got like a Bosu ball, and now we have a balance beam, and there's a pull-up bar, and my husband has made the house so that we get home from jiu-jitsu and my son's like, hey, Mom, I got to show you this. And he can show me right there and then. So it's become this wonderful family activity, but it's also part of our family. Like the kids that they wrestle with, or the kids that my kids train with, are the kids that come to their birthday parties. And my 5-year-old daughter has been wrestling for a year and a half or so at the same dojo, and my husband and both my kids do Muay Thai, and my son does wrestling, and then he does wrestling for jiu-jitsu, then he goes over the jiu-jitsu mats, and then he does no-gi, and we have amazing coaches and professors, and we literally are there every morning and every night, 5 days a week, and then on Saturday mornings as well.
You're like the coolest mom ever.
We'll see. My kids might hate me someday, and it might be soon. But I do have to blame my husband for most of it.
All right. Well, I heard he is like a mountain of a man. Well, how tall is he again?
He's 6'9". Dang.
Is it like a cousin or something? Trying to get in this family. Okay. My last question. I could talk to you all night, but I know you got stuff to do. So it seems like jiu-jitsu is a big part of your life and your family's life. And do you think that the sport, we'll say, you know, jiu-jitsu, but, you know, it's a martial art, so mixed martial arts, you know, do you think that it has improved either one, you as a person, your family life, and your job as a major here in the military?
So yes. Obviously, you know, families that do stuff together, whatever that is, they are tighter. Yeah. We have something we can bond about at any time of the day, anywhere, any way. You know, we can be mad at each other for other things. We can be tired. We can be whatever, but we still have that. We can talk about jiu-jitsu. We can talk about it. It's another thing that's just ours. Mm-hmm. And we even refer to ourselves as Team Jaster. But, you know, if you want to talk about Ranger School, or you want to talk about hardships in the military, being away from your family, you know as well as anyone else, being on those mats and having somebody hold you in side control or in mount and suffocating you and trying to choke you or break your arm or literally practice killing you is it's a way to build some resiliency. But it's not only building that mental toughness, like I can get through this, but it's also teaching yourself what you really can do. I mean, 5 years ago, I would have never gotten on the mat with that big guy. I would have been like, okay, go light. The first thing I would say is go light. Or, hey, you know you're bigger than me and I'm a small girl. So, but now I was like, all right, let's go. Boom. And I knew there was a high probability that he could crush me and he could choke me, but I also knew I always had the double tap. Hey, I'm good, let go. Yeah. And so it's this place where you can take yourself to the edge and then just stop, walk back. Hey, Ashley, can you show me what I was doing wrong here? And you learn and you develop, and it's soul crushing and it's invigorating, and it's a good life lesson. And I would say, especially for women, it's good for self-defense, it's good for fitness, but it's also good for that confidence, because a lot of women weren't raised to know that you can do so many things. You just have to figure out how to throw your weight into it. The only sport where it's cool to be heavy. You got to get heavy. You got to get heavy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing the interview. I usually, it's usually fighters that I interview, my little YouTube channel, you know, sometimes coaches and all that. And I say, where can we find you on social medias to follow your career? Is that applicable in this situation?
Actually, kind of. So I do have a page, and it's Lisa Jaster delete the adjective. The concept behind that is you're a fighter. You don't want to be a good female fighter. You want to be a good fighter. You want your technique to be recognized. You want your strength to be revered. You want a lot of things that have nothing to do with that adjective, with being a female fighter. This exact same thing is true for soldiers. I don't want to be good for a female soldier. I want to be a good soldier. Yeah. So I did start a Facebook page, and I just throw things out there. Right now we're talking about all the Olympic athletes and the dedication that they have. And I mean, don't tell me those women can't keep up with every man, and don't undermine men either. Because that's one of the interesting things I found when I started the Delete the Adjective campaign, is that a lot of things that we credit to women, men do that stuff too. But we take it away from men. Like, oh, she can't travel for work because she has kids. Well, guess what? He loves his kids too. So maybe we should ask him if he wants to go on the business trip or whatever it is. Like, I've realized that a lot of the adjectives we've added are taking away from the majorities as well as the minorities. So, and it's, whether it's sexual orientation, race, gender, religion, all of those things don't matter. When you get on the mats, you still sweat and you still bleed. So yeah, I'm following up with the Delete the Adjective.
Okay, awesome. So if you would like to support, or sounds like you got some serious, it's like a forum, some conversations back and forth going on, you want to, educate yourself, then one more time, what's
Lisa Jaster, and it's just a dash, delete the adjective. It's not a fundraising, it's not a money raising, it's nothing that I can't say in uniform, but it is just, it's a free open space where people can, I post stuff and I want to hear other people's opinions, because that's the other thing I found out, is people I started disagreeing with, I started understanding where they were coming from. So delete the adjective.
That's awesome. That's I love when people open their minds and take the opportunity to see the other side. And sometimes you still disagree, but sometimes you like you said, you can understand where they're coming from. So that's awesome. I didn't know that, so I'm gonna go to the website later. And then I always give the fighters a chance to thank sponsors and that kind of stuff. But I mean, your family.
Thank you, U.S. Army.
Is there any sponsors that you would like to thank?
This one right here. Be all you can be.
Okay, that's the end of our interview, and I just want to say, I know it's going to be so corny, but thank you so much for your service, and I wish I could give every soldier a hug, but will you give me a hug?
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Tune in next time. This is the end.